My sister Clara was supposed to marry Edward, who everyone said was a bit slow. He was the oldest son of the Harrison family. We had known about this arrangement since we were little. But the night before the wedding, Clara ran off with the son of our housekeeper. To keep our family's reputation as trustworthy merchants, I, her twin sister, had to marry Edward instead. It turned out that Edward wasn't slow at all. He was actually very clever and had become the head of the Harrison family through his own intelligence. Clara felt betrayed and became very angry. In the end, she stabbed me and then took her own life. When I woke up, Clara and I were both back in time, to the day Clara was supposed to marry into the Harrison family. Clara was snuggled up next to our mother, who looked very sympathetic. Clara has always been so bright, well-educated, and kind, Mother said. Everyone praises her for it, and we all love her very much. Yet, today, you want her to marry someone who isn't very smart. Mother looked at my quiet father, unable to hide her complaints. Even if the Harrison family is rich, that oldest son isn't very capable and could never run the family business. Maybe Father had finally had enough of Mother's nagging because he finally spoke, sounding a bit annoyed. Even if Edward isn't the most capable, he will always have the Harrison family's protection. Are you really worried Clara would suffer there? Mother got angry, her face turning red. You don't care about Clara at all. Father cut her off sharply. Enough! But Mother wouldn't give up and insisted that Clara shouldn't be forced to marry into the Harrison family. Darling, she pleaded with Father, for Clara's sake, please go talk to the Harrison family. Maybe there's a way to change things. Tomorrow is the wedding day, Father said. There's no time for that. Suddenly, Father slammed a teacup on the table. Just then, Clara stood up and knelt on the floor. Mother, she said, I accept this marriage. If we back out now, won't it hurt Father's reputation for keeping his word? Even if it's to someone who isn't smart, or even someone who might die soon. I must marry. Seeing her daughter's determination, Mother had no choice but to help her up, comforting her as she led her back to her room. That night, Clara knocked on my door. Sarah, she said, I'm getting married tomorrow. I just wanted to say goodbye. Without waiting for me to answer, she walked into my room, sat at my vanity, and picked up my makeup, smelling it. I know you remember our past life too, she said, but this time, I'm not letting you get lucky. The future Mrs. Harrison family head will be me. Clara, I said, taking the makeup from her hand and smiling. Isn't it a little early to be boasting? I sighed. I'm just afraid that tomorrow you might not get married. Clara suddenly glared at me fiercely before storming out. The next day, the time for the wedding vows at the church had passed, but the Harrison family still hadn't arrived. I had expected this. Father sent someone to the Harrison family only to be told that they had called off the wedding. Clara immediately became very angry. Father and Mother tried to comfort her, but as soon as she heard the news, she rushed towards me, looking furious. She yanked me from my chair, grabbing my throat, her face twisted with anger. Sarah, what did you do? You said one thing yesterday. Now today the Harrison family backs out. It's you. You're jealous. Her grip on my neck tightened, and I started to have trouble breathing. Her forehead and neck veins were bulging, and my vision blurred. There was chaos in the church as several people pulled Clara away. She tried to attack me again, but was stopped by Father's stern voice. Even while being held back, she still cursed me. Sarah, you'll die a terrible death. My parents assumed she was just upset about what happened and quickly said a few comforting words to me before turning back to calm Clara down. It was almost like Clara was the one who had almost died. I had been used to our parents favoring her for as long as I could remember. I'm not like Clara. I don't know how to charm people. I don't hire singers for Father's birthdays or write him poems. I don't give large amounts of money to charity. All I do every day is read books in my room or go horseback riding. I only come out when my parents call for me to listen and obey. The rest of the time, I don't even try to get their attention. It has always been this way, and today was no different. Clara, heartbroken because the wedding was canceled, locked herself in her room, refusing to see anyone. She didn't even open the door for our parents when they brought her food. Seeing that Clara hadn't eaten or drunk anything for days, Father finally slammed his hand on the table in anger. How dare the Harrison family? Canceling on the wedding day. We've been waiting for their explanation for days and not a single word. The shame of Clara's canceled wedding spread quickly. Soon, the whole town was gossiping that she must have done something very bad to be rejected. Clara, the well-mannered lady, was now seen as disgraceful. My parents decided to go to the Harrison family to demand an explanation, making me promise over and over to look after Clara. Once they left, I knocked on Clara's door. "Sister, are you all right?" I knew she would only see me, so I said who it was. Just as I thought, Clara opened the door. Her face was stained with tears, her hair was messy, and her eyes were bloodshot. She looked completely miserable. I told her that our parents were going to get justice and handed her a glass of water. "Sister, here, have some water." She knocked the glass out of my hand, and it shattered on the floor. "Stop pretending, Sarah. You're laughing at me inside, aren't you?" "To heck with the title. Mrs. Harrison family head will be me," I replied sharply since she wasn't going to calm down. "You said that last time too. Look, did you end up getting married?" Just that one sentence made her even angrier. She lifted her chin defiantly. "It was mine to begin with. Last time, you stole what was rightfully mine. Now, I'm taking it back, and rightly so." With a cold laugh, I moved closer to her, my eyes full of anger and determination. "Sister, maybe you're too upset to think clearly. The housekeeper's son is yours. Do you still want to marry Edward? Wake up." The memory of that handsome man in a suit, crying desperately as he held my lifeless body, was very clear in my mind. I gritted my teeth in anger, pushing her to the floor. Her hand was cut by the broken glass. Determined, I left and asked a maid to clean up the shattered glass. Not long after, my parents returned. Father looked stern, while Mother seemed worried and disappointed. Clara straightened herself up and came to greet them in the living room, anxiously waiting for good news. But who would have thought Father, in his fury, threw 2 pieces of paper onto the floor. "Damn it!" he exclaimed. It was a letter, along with a hospital report. Clara knew exactly what it was as soon as she saw it. Her face turned pale, and she fell to her knees with a thud. Her dad reached out as if to hit her, but her mom stopped him. So he could only point at her and yell, "We gave you everything. We wanted you to become a true lady. But you made a promise to that housekeeper's son, and now you're pregnant with his child." Clara looked at the papers, her legs giving way beneath her. According to what happened in our past life, she thought she might be pregnant, but hadn't confirmed it yet. She had just gone to the hospital for a test. Her dad took a deep breath to calm his anger and continued speaking. "That housekeeper's son waited for you in an alley. When you didn't show up, he sent you a letter, but people from the Harrison family caught him. He even admitted that you might be pregnant. The Harrison family sent someone to investigate at the hospital. They found out everything but kept quiet about it because of your reputation. The Harrison family said they wanted Sarah to marry in your place, pretending nothing happened, or else everyone would find out about this. The Harrison family didn't want a pregnant daughter-in-law, but didn't want to break off the engagement either. So, the best solution was for me to marry into the family. If the news about Clara got out, her parents wouldn't be able to hide it for her. It would have been over for her." When her dad finished speaking, Clara turned to look at me with a fierce gaze, but I ignored her look and nodded in agreement. "I'm willing to marry into the Harrison family to protect my sister's reputation, even if the guy I was marrying wasn't very smart." I put on a show of being selfless, acting like I was making a big sacrifice. My parents came over to support and comfort me. Afterward, they left Clara in the living room and took me upstairs to try on what should have been her wedding dress. The marriage deal with Edward was settled. The Harrison family announced that Edward was unwell and unable to marry on the original wedding date, so the ceremony would be postponed for 2 weeks. Their announcement effectively stopped any rumors about my sister. During that time, nothing happened with her. Clara always liked playing with perfumes. On the night before the wedding, she brought me some incense, saying she hoped I'd have pleasant smells around me on my wedding day. It was late at night when I was about to go to sleep, and I suddenly felt dizzy, collapsing onto my bed. Soon, I heard someone quietly entering my room. When that person touched me, I opened my eyes suddenly. "Sister, you just don't change, do you?" Clara looked terrified, scared out of her wits. Before she could react, a servant I didn't recognize covered her mouth and nose with a cloth to knock her out. Take her back to her room. Don't wake up my parents or the maids. Make sure she's tied up. The servant nodded and left my room. When morning came, the whole house was buzzing with excitement. Mom came to my room to watch the maids get me ready, and she finally took the brush from one of them to do my hair herself. Sarah, I think this is my first time doing your hair. I didn't expect the first time to also be the last. I looked at her face in the mirror, smiling gently without saying much. In my past life, she never did my hair or dressed me up. As a kid, Mom favored my sister and ignored me. Before I got married, she was too busy panicking over my sisters running away to bother with me. Compared to last time, this wedding was much more organized. Mom placed the veil on my head, her eyes filled with tears as she looked at my face. If Clara was getting married, she'd be just as beautiful. Mom paused and then changed the subject, realizing something. It's your wedding day, yet your sister is nowhere to be found. The maid doing my hair was sent to find Clara, and Mom squeezed my hand, giving me advice. She hadn't been this affectionate before. The Harrison family's oldest son might be a bit slow, but they'll treat you well. Once you're married, you can't be as distant as you are at home. You'll need to get along with your husband's family. I forced a smile and promised, "Thanks for the advice, Mom. I'll remember." At the church, I saw Edward through the white veil. The moment I saw him, I fought the urge to run into his arms. Just like in my past life, he was wearing a white suit, awkwardly fiddling with the flowers. His father, Mr. Harrison, had to tap him to make him stand straight. As I walked slowly towards him, standing before him, there seemed to be a brief moment of gentleness in his eyes, gone in an instant. I willingly took his arm, facing the priest. The guests watching couldn't help but whisper, "That Harrison boy is a bit slow, and yet someone's marrying him." No choice, it's an old family agreement. But look, isn't Sarah looking kind of happy about it? What's she going to do, look sad at her wedding? Even if she wasn't, she'd pretend. I held his arm just a little tighter, and he stepped closer. We made our vows with the priest as our witness. Facing the guests, I noticed Clara in the crowd. I smirked and leaned my head affectionately on Edward. After the wedding feast, Edward and I returned to our new room. He stopped acting and hugged me tightly, his head on my shoulder, his breath tickling my ear. "Am I dreaming?" he whispered. Last time, Edward and I were only married for 4 years. That first night, he confessed that he wasn't actually slow and asked me to keep it a secret. We got along well after that. Unlike other wealthy men, Edward didn't waste his time with other women. To avoid gossip, we always lived in the same room. But he would sleep on the floor while I took the bed. We would chat about poetry and discuss current events. He knew I loved horseback riding and promised we would go riding when the time was right. Every time someone made fun of me for marrying a slow guy, Edward would feel guilty, saying it was his fault I had to endure it. He was pretending to be slow to mislead his stepbrother and stepmother. His real mother had a heart problem and died when she found his father with the stepmother. With the stepmother taking her place, he was all alone in that house. After getting very sick, he pretended to be slow to protect himself. The stepmother, seeing him as slow, didn't see him as a threat to her own son's inheritance. Later, Edward's brother Ben tried to get rid of their dad early. Edward stopped him just in time and showed their plans to his dad. He didn't know if Ben would try to set him up, though. Before going ahead with his plans, he left me a check and keys to an apartment. "If I fail, take the money and stay there for a while. I worry Ben might try to hurt you." I held the key, tears in my eyes, and hugged him. Edward, from the day we got married, we were supposed to go through good times and bad times together. If your plan failed and Ben became the head of the Harrison family, we would still stand together. But then the plan worked. Mr. Harrison was saved, and Ben's crimes were revealed. Edward took over the Harrison family. I loved horse riding. He often took me to the stables, keeping his promise. We promised to grow old together in the first snow of winter. I eased his worries, and he kept me safe. Whenever I casually mentioned I liked something to eat, no matter how late or far, he would make sure to get it for me. We wished for our happiness to last forever. Shortly after I found out I was pregnant, I went to the hospital for a checkup. He had something to do and couldn't be with me. That day, my sister Clara stabbed me in the chest with a knife and then took her own life. My spirit didn't disappear. Instead, it floated, watching him rush frantically to my body. His eyes were bloodshot, and he roared like an animal, nothing like the elegant man he once was. He tried to slam himself against the hospital wall, but people held him back. Thankfully, fate gave us a second chance to start over. On the first day of my rebirth, Edward sent me the keys to an apartment. My eyes lit up suddenly. He had also been reborn with memories of our past life. We exchanged letters, and I told him about my rebirth and my sister's. He arranged for trusted people to secretly enter my house to protect me. We then found the housekeeper's son, who was working with my sister, and we called off the wedding on our wedding day. After ending the engagement, we firmly told the family that the Harrison family wouldn't accept a woman with a bad reputation. To stop the gossip in town, I offered to marry into the Harrison family in her place. Clara's dream of living a luxurious life in the Harrison family was ruined. Edward removed the hair ornament from my hair and pulled me into his arms. She won't give up yet. She'll do something. I held his face, kissed him gently, and spoke softly. Together, we'll face whatever comes. With you here, I'm not afraid of anything. He smiled, returned my kiss, and lifted me into his arms. It was a night to remember. On the third day after our wedding, we visited my parents, as we should. After eating, even though Edward acted a bit simple in front of them, given the Harrison family's wealth and reputation, my parents welcomed him warmly. While my parents were with Edward, I went to look for my sister. In the backyard, when she thought no one was around, Clara showed her true angry face. "Sarah, did you plan all of this?" I watched her almost lose control and just replied calmly, "Sister, you were the one who agreed to run away with the housekeeper's son and had his child. It's the Harrison family that rejected you, not me." Clara had long lost her composure. Jealousy had taken over her. I leaned against a pillar, arms crossed, speaking casually. "Keeping the housekeeper's son at home isn't going to work. I had him brought here today, locked in the storage room. He was your lover, after all. Sister, do you want to see him?" Of course, Clara would go. Not because she loved him, but because she hated him. When she attacked me in the hospital in our past life, she was wearing rags, looking like a crazy person, bruised all over. Her terrible scars were shocking to see. All probably because of that housekeeper's son. Mentioning him turned her into someone wanting revenge, wanting to tear him apart. I moved forward, pretending to hold her back. In reality, I slipped a knife into her hand that I had picked from the garden while trimming plants. Clara, as if possessed, ignored my words and rushed to the storage room. By the time I got there, all I could hear were a man's gasps and pleas and a woman screaming loudly. The man lay in a pool of blood with many stab wounds all over him. He was too weak to cry out anymore, his voice just a faint whimper with each stab. With hatred built up over 2 lifetimes, Clara looked like a judge from hell, delivering punishment with every stab. "I gave up my life as a wealthy daughter for you. You tricked me out of my money and even tried to sell our child to pay off debts. I was hungry and didn't care that you made me work and wash clothes at dawn, but you beat me for the smallest mistake." Remembering the most painful memory, she plunged the knife in deepest. "You even forced me into prostitution." When she finished her last angry words, the housekeeper's son took his last breath. Listening to her cries, I felt shocked. I never imagined her life was so miserable after running away in the previous life. Thinking about how she likely struggled to escape and seeing me as the wife of the Harrison family head probably turned all her pride and humiliation into hatred for me. She had waited at the hospital, alone, after finding out about my pregnancy, ending both our lives and her anger with one strike. A woman's scream interrupted my thoughts. It was my mother. Not used to seeing her daughter covered in blood, she fainted at the sight of Clara. Her scream brought Clara back to reality. She slumped to the floor, the bloody knife falling from her hand, her other hand covering her mouth as she screamed. The house fell into chaos. Seeing my sister in her crazy state, Edward and I left, pretending we didn't want to bother them. After that day, my mother stayed in bed, unwilling to see Clara and haunted by her terrible appearance. Father made my sister kneel in the family hall to ask for forgiveness. but found someone else to blame to cover up her crime. When the Lantern Festival came around, Mr. Harrison suggested that his son Ben marry Clara to strengthen family ties. Father, thinking it would bring the Harrison family's wealth to ours, happily agreed. This news spread quickly, with everyone saying the two important families were joining together, ready to dominate the business world. At the family dinner, Edward sat with me. He pretended to be simple-minded, carelessly spilling his wine. I wiped it off, and we looked at each other, understanding without needing words. After the dinner ended that night, Edward gave an order to his people. Let's start the plan. A year later, it was Ben and Clara's wedding. Edward and I were there to see it as part of the family. In her white wedding dress, Clara smiled as she walked towards Ben. At the evening dinner, I raised my glass to her. Sister, congratulations. Her smile grew a bit wider as she leaned in to whisper in my ear, her words just for us to hear. My dear sister, I'm about to become the wife of the head of the Harrison family, making me more important than you in the end. I pretended not to hear and went to take care of Edward, who was pretending to be not very smart. Ben was standing there in a nice black suit, raising a glass. He had a gentle smile and looked quite friendly. When he glanced my way, he gave a polite nod, but there was something I couldn't read in his eyes. During dinner, Ben sat at our table and said to me with a smile, Sister-in-law, when my brother was 6, he had a high fever and became a little slow. You've been so kind to him. I thank you for him. I've been busy with the wedding, so I'm not sure how he's been lately. I pursed my lips and finally spoke. He's the same, not quite all there, but I'll stay by his side. For years, Edward had been pretending to have the mind of a 5-year-old. Ben stared at Edward and me for a long time before looking away. Not long after, a server brought over a bowl of hot soup and spilled it on me. The moment Edward saw the soup spill, his expression changed immediately. He wanted to come over to check on me, but with so many guests around, he couldn't break his act. Ben scolded the server. How could you be so careless? What if she's burned? Take her to get it taken care of right away. I followed the server to the restroom to clean up the soup stain. I hadn't finished when there was a sudden knock on the door. It was Edward. Sarah, Sarah, he called. I was surprised. Since I didn't answer for a while, he just came in. Seeing me, he let out a sigh of relief. Thank goodness you're okay. When we came out, Ben was leaning against the wall, watching us. He looked at Edward, then just smirked and walked away. After the party ended, we went home. Edward gently put ointment on my burns and blew on the scalded skin. I'm sorry. It's all because of me. If not for me, Ben wouldn't have had someone spill soup on you. Clara must have told him I've been faking it. After you went to the restroom, he hinted to me that you were in danger, and I panicked. He was trying to see if what Clara said was true. Seeing his guilty and worried face, my heart ached a little. I gently touched his face. Edward leaned into my hand. In this life, he married Clara, who remembers our past lives. Because of Clara, he started to be careful of me. To avoid making things worse, he'll probably act quickly this time. Sarah, we need to take control of what happens. After Clara's wedding, I had been feeling sleepy all the time, dizzy and a little sick to my stomach. Edward wanted to take me to the hospital, but I refused, thinking it wasn't a big deal. He suggested we take a trip to Los Angeles, saying being in nature might make me feel better. On our way back at the train station, there was suddenly a commotion next to us. Murder! Murder! Someone was waving a knife around wildly nearby. In the chaos, I heard a noise and saw Edward fall. Sarah, run! I rushed him to the nearest hospital. I was by his side day and night, but in the end, all I got was the doctor's death certificate. My heart twisted with pain, and I couldn't hear anything around me. I collapsed to the ground, feeling hopeless. I wanted to hit my head against his bed, but was stopped by Mr. Harrison. Sarah, the doctor said you're pregnant. Edward died young, but the child you're carrying is his only family left in the world. You can't do anything rash. The white fabric of the Harrison family hung in the air. Edward's good friend, the sheriff, came to comfort me, and I softly said, Sheriff, don't worry. He seemed to understand what I meant and nodded before leaving. That night, I took out 2 letters and handed them to Edward's loyal helper. Go. The cold wind howled. Today is the third day of the funeral, and many guests have come to pay their respects. I wrapped myself in a white fur coat, looking pale and full of sorrow. My sister, Clara, dressed in bright colors, walked from her room to the main hall. Clara's red lips and rosy cheeks were very different from how I looked. If someone didn't know us well, they might think she was the bride. She came over to me, pretending to be sympathetic. It's a shame Edward was not only not very smart, but also died young. After all, you're not only my sister, but also my sister-in-law. Ben and I will take care of you, for Edward. Her tone sounded regretful, but she clearly looked pleased. She bowed slightly in front of the coffin, her smile suggesting she was happy about his death. The guests whispered about her behavior, and a young woman spoke loudly, scolding her. "Clara, you're both sister and sister-in-law to Edward's wife. Is this really appropriate?" Clara scoffed, not caring, as if she was celebrating something great. The Harrison family, grateful for everyone coming from far away to mourn, invited the guests to stay for dinner. Once the meal started, Clara eagerly poured Mr. Harrison a glass of wine, smiling widely. "You've worked hard these past few days because of my brother." Mr. Harrison didn't drink the wine and handed the glass to Ben. "Clara, it's been Ben who's been busy all these days. This glass should be for Ben." The move itself was strange. Ben's expression changed to slight panic before he quickly calmed himself. "No way, it's more fitting for you to drink. Things went smoothly thanks to you." I lowered my head and smiled slightly. Those letters I sent yesterday had worked. In this life, Ben had Clara as an unexpected problem. So, instead of waiting, I decided to act. Last night, I found Ben's spy near Mr. Harrison and sent out false information. I said Mr. Harrison planned to leave the Harrison family business to my unborn child after 100 years. Afraid of losing his inheritance, Ben believed the lie. The second letter said that Ben would poison Mr. Harrison the next day during the meal, using the chaos to hide it, and then he would take over easily. I also mentioned in the letter that Edward's death was related to Ben. Mr. Harrison wasn't completely sure, but had his doubts. With a sigh, Mr. Harrison stood up. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the Harrison family's lack of hospitality today. Something urgent has come up, and I must ask you to return home for now. We will make it up to you another day." The guests were all talking among themselves, but they still left as Mr. Harrison had asked. After they were gone, Mr. Harrison turned to Ben. "Ben, let me ask you something. Is there poison in this drink?" Ben was terrified, his legs feeling weak as his plan fell apart. "How could it be? What are you talking about?" Mr. Harrison shouted sternly. "I'm asking you again. Is it poisoned?" Clara, hearing this, immediately grabbed the glass pitcher and aimed it at Mr. Harrison. Just in time, I pushed her away. Edward came in with the police from outside. "Clara, Ben, Anna, you're suspected of attempted murder. Please come with us." Anna was the stepmother's name, and she was involved in what happened at the train station, too. The murder charge was for killing the servants who knew about the poisoning, not for trying to poison Mr. Harrison or kill Edward. Clara looked at Edward in disbelief. He was alive and back. Her plans had failed, and she seemed to lose her mind. Of course, I knew what she had been planning all these years. The next second, she tried to smash her head with the glass pitcher, but I stopped her. They were taken away. I rushed over and hugged Edward. "Edward, it's over." All three of them ended up at the police station. After some investigation, stepmother Anna was accused of murder for killing Edward's birth mother. It wasn't a heart attack. It was Anna's drug that caused heart problems, and Edward's mom saw it. Ben and Clara had tried to poison someone, but failed. They also faced punishment for trying to harm Edward and getting rid of the witnesses. The sheriff was Edward's close friend, and I asked to visit Clara in jail. She had lost her proud appearance, curled up in the cold jail cell. I brought her favorite yellow croaker fish, placing it in front of her. "My mom made it especially for you. Because of what you did, our parents are really upset." Clara knocked over the fish. "They deserve it. Ever since they saw me kill the housekeeper's son, they've avoided me. I'm going to make them and everyone else realize I'm a proper lady. I'll still be the mistress of the Harrison family with endless wealth." Clara never admitted she was wrong, but her arrogance faded as her title disappeared. After a while, she asked me, "Edward was shot at the train station, and the hospital said he died. How is he still alive?" I squatted down to look her in the eyes and explained, Do you know why he got shot and why the hospital said he died? Actually, he's very quick. He could dodge the bullets. Plus, to be safe, he wore a bulletproof vest that day. According to the original plan, Ben would accidentally find out 3 years later that his brother wasn't crazy. By then, Edward would have shown Ben's true colors while saving Mr. Harrison. But this lifetime had a twist. Clara, with her memories of her past life, she knew Edward was pretending to be slow and that he hated Ben and Anna because of what happened to his mom. She also knew he would eventually take over the Harrison family. She never married Edward, but her pride wouldn't let her accept being less important than me. So, she bet on Ben, hoping to compete for the Harrison family's inheritance. She figured if Edward died, Ben would be next in line. They planned to have Edward killed, but Edward and I saw it coming. Instead of letting a dangerous person stay near us, we decided to trick them. Edward and I went to Los Angeles alone, paying the hospital to give a false death report, so Ben would think he had gotten the inheritance. With Ben still worried about dealing with one brother, I made Ben's spy send fake information to Ben, saying Mr. Harrison might give the family business to his grandson because of my pregnancy. Finally, when they panicked, Edward came in with the police to arrest them right there in the Harrison family mansion. Clara suddenly laughed a crazy sound. She pushed me down. Why? 2 lifetimes, and I still can't beat you. Why? I should have been the favored daughter. In the last life, I was tricked by my lover. In this life, if it weren't for you, I would have married Edward. Then all the wealth and glory would be mine. I sat on the ground looking at my sister who had lost her mind and said calmly, "No, you could never have married Edward." Clara fell back, lying on the ground, tears streaming down her face. I just wanted to live better than you. What's so wrong with that? As I stood up, looked at her, and left her with one thing. You're not wrong. Everyone has the right to fight for themselves. But in this game, you lost. Walking out of the prison, Edward offered me his jacket. Seeing that I was deep in thought, he said gently, "I can ask to spare your sister's life." I firmly interrupted him. "No, she has to die. If we don't kill her, she wouldn't want to live. She's such a proud person. She'd rather die than live on." He adjusted my hair, and suddenly I turned around and hugged his neck. "When you died in our past life, what were you thinking about?" He was surprised for a moment, then smiled at me. "Well, I was thinking, with such a big hole in me, would you be scared and decide to leave me?" His words made me laugh, and I pinched his nose. "Quit your nonsense!" He held me by the waist, and we got into the car. In the previous life, after I died, maybe I was so worried about Edward that my soul stayed instead of moving on. I followed him day and night, never leaving his side. I watched him drink too much, break down at night, and seek revenge for me, blinded by anger. He made the Harrison family business even more successful and adopted a child. That child was well taught and took over the family business. Eventually, Edward went to a temple, kneeling at the feet of the statue of a deity. I dare not speak of doing good deeds in my life, but the wealth I earned was for the country and the people. All I ask is for my wife, Sarah, to have a life of peace, health, and happiness, even if the one by her side isn't me. My spirit looked at him, my heart aching, completely defeated. Suddenly, a sound rang out, and he died in front of my eyes. I wanted to stop him, touch his face, but I couldn't move. I was disappearing. When I woke up again, I looked down at a key in my hand. It was an apartment key from our past life, given to me by Edward in case his plan backfired because of Ben. Staring at the key, tears streamed down my face.